Welcome, Soulful listeners. We hope that you stay connected to us during the week through our weekly podcast on Spotify, our YouTube channel, Patreon, and social media. We love to hear soulful stories, so send us a request to be heard on the podcast at info@soulful-conversation.com. I'm your host, Shar, and my fabulous co-host, Nico, and our media dude is here today. We're going to get into this Instagram video that we found with Jonathan Miller. He's a pastor of Faith Alive Ministries, and we thought we expand on this. So let's get into it.
The most hurtful things you can experience during your time of human existence is when someone you deeply admire has been having a conversation about you that was less than favorable and demeaning to your character. Without ever reaching out to you to share with you the issue at hand, it can really bruise the heart because it flips your perspective immediately concerning that person. But what I've learned as I grow in God is best not to resolve the issue with toxic, visceral rebuttals or saying something negative about them. The mature thing is to maintain your behavior while simultaneously shifting your heart posture. I love you. I just don't trust you. I won't disrespect you, but I don't respect you. Jesus already knew that Judas had sold him out, but he still demonstrated the same measure of integrity and love toward Judas in spite of his betrayal because he realized his assignment was greater than Judas's character flaws, and Judas was still going to be advantageous to Jesus in the long run. In life, you learn there's levels to the love you give away. There, of course, are those who you attempt to give the genuine agape love that God requests us to distribute to all we come in contact with. But then there are those who have access to the intimate spaces of your heart that have proven through trust that they've earned a right to receive from you the best form of love you have to offer. Once you realize someone you love has been talking about you behind your back, you would actually do yourself a disservice to adjust your entire character to try to stoop down to their level. No, don't adjust your behavior in their presence. Show love. Adjust their position in your heart. No access. If someone is talking about you behind your back, that simply means you're
Let's
ahead
get
of them.
into it.
So it's crazy.
Friends,
Go ahead,
yeah,
babe.
just friends, family. It covers so many topics because what I think he was leaning towards the most was the betrayal, the offense of
Mm-hmm.
it all. And that's where the pain is when you love someone and now it's 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 no more. The love is gone. The betrayal is there, and especially to know they've been having sidebars with other people outside of you. That's what hurts the most.
Mm-hmm.
So with him saying give it to God and be the bigger person, it takes a lot of time to process that because we are still
Human.
very much infants in this spiritual walk of
Mm-hmm.
human decency. And I, uh, for me personally, it's just a, a touchy little subject there because uh, I'm just so loyal and so open, so transparent with folks that if you done got that close to me, that now the betrayal is there. It's painful. It's painful, and it's a process.
Yeah.
Family, siblings, whoever I've invited in, you expect the same type of energy in return, and when that's not there, it hurts. So, what were you gonna say?
Oh, the same thing. Basically, that when the betrayal happens, like how do you navigate from there anyway? And especially if it's a family member, sibling,
Mhm.
moreover. Because for me myself, I would be out and about and find out that my sibling was saying all type of crazy stuff behind my back and talking about me like crazy, and I'm like, who does that? It's one thing for you to say, my sister gets on my nerves, whatever, whatever. But to go out and blatantly slander you, and that's your blood sibling, like you can never really trust that person again. Period. Point blank. Like I've really have learned for both of my two living siblings by my parents that I gotta love you guys from a distance. And I literally
Yeah.
just said this the other day. I love, yeah, of course I love my siblings, but I'm not fooling with them because of the betrayal.
Hmm.
Can't do it. And then it's
Absolutely.
a breakup, like any type of breakup, like whether it's a friend or a sibling, it is a for sure breakup. And that
It's
comes
almost it's a death of what we had. I have to
right.
grieve for it. I'm
Mhm.
angry about it. I'm sad about it. I'm mad about it. It's a grieving process because we'll never be what we were because of this offense. And
Mhm.
regardless of if we have a meeting of the minds and be as open and transparent as we can be. I can't trust you with my heart and my well-being and my loyalty and all that I am, knowing that, it takes nothing for you to just
Go off the
shit on
rails.
me at whatever convenient time. And we're way too ahead of the game in that, way too seasoned and too old to be playing these games with folks. So um media dude, how you feeling about this?
Mhm.
For me, it comes on levels because it's like I've always it's I expect you to be who you are. So it's not that I expect the worst, but I expect you to be who they. So it's like if it's somebody that's a friend, but they're not a close friend, when they do it, it hurts. But it's something that is like, okay, I just won't deal with you. But when it's somebody closer, like Shar was saying, that really hurts. I mean, you have to, you know, you have to, you can't control what other people's responses are, but you can't control how you respond to them. So it's like, it used to get me is like, my grandmother used to say, you hating on somebody else because they did something wrong to you or they was talking about you is like you drinking poison and expecting them to die. That
Mm.
Mm.
really worked. So yeah, I felt what he was saying. Yeah, you gotta. It's hard, but you ain't gotta cut them out, but you gotta cut them off, sort of, to your heartstrings. I think, unless you're gonna continue to get hurt, stepped on.
Do you guys feel like it's best to give closure to that situation? I mean, some people you really can't get to or get through, but
I don't
just
have
the fact that hmm, you
I
don't
don't
have to
have to
have
have
closure.
closure. Well, because I mean, it is if we can't have a conversation about it, depending on what it was said and in what circumstances, it's like why. So if it's like a family member, then maybe it's different. But then you get to a point where, like Char was saying, I just got to love you at a distance. So I mean, what kind of what would the closure be? I mean, what comes from the
The
closure? So
Well, in my head, of course, it never works out like that. But in my head, I'm saying what bothered me about the situation. I'm taking ownership and accountability for my feelings. And
Mhm.
then I'm expecting another adult that is involved in this offense to say how their perspective was. And we have this conversation or what they felt happened and have that kind of meeting of the minds and get some kind of understanding to where we can agree to disagree without you going around talking crap about me, slandering me, or just having this one-sided narrative go on. And I'm the villain. I never get you know my understanding of what happened to where
well,
we can agree to disagree again.
why didn't you do that before you was talking behind my back? If that was if you wanted to have, see, for me, it's like if we was gonna have that conversation, you had a problem with me or something that I was doing, come to me first. I'm gonna talking behind my back, and then at that point, it's like, okay, so address it, say, hey, why were you talking behind my back? Da da da. And then the response goes, if there was a conversation to be had about why you did that or why, what was it? It's like you still could have came to me first before you know, I at least that's how I expect people to do that because that's what I would do. But you can't always, like I said, you can't control somebody's response or what they do. So you can only control how you respond to it. So I hear what you're saying. It's just sometimes it's like, man, why don't you do that first before you
Well,
talk
yeah,
behind
because
my back?
you're not gonna get any type of closure, because when I try to have a
Right.
resolution with my sibling, both of my siblings, and neither one of them had time to communicate with me. So for me, that's closure. You guys are cutting it off here. Well, that's where I'm going. You guys drew the line in the sand. Well, that's where I'm going to stand on my, on my side of the sand. So sometimes you just got to expect that you're not going to get the closure that think you deserve, or whatever, because they don't know how to communicate. A lot of people don't know how to communicate unless it's a negative connotation towards somebody. You can say all the negative stuff, but you can't come to me and have a civilized conversation, which is wild to me. But
Yes, that's
know,
where I get pissed off, because how can you run around town and put smut on my name, but you can't even come to me and say what it is that I did that is making you feel like you need to run
mhm,
around and say all
mhm.
this. Like that's just so cowardice and sucker shit to me.
It is. I can go around my siblings' so-called friend circle. Ain't none of them people as friends, but I could go around his so-called friends circle, and they can tell me, "Oh, your brother is mad at you because of blah blah blah." But if I go ask my brother, "What's the issue with me and you?" He will not, absolutely will not tell me.
Can't hear.
You know,
I can hear
yeah.
you.
I mean, you should be able to have a grown conversation, conversation about whatever it is if you guys was that close. So it makes me think, well, damn, how close, baby, I was closer to you than you are to me. If you can't do that, it's like, and it's the worst when, like you say, you walk in a room and it's like the person you thought was your partner was they've been talking about you, and then all of a sudden heads turn, they start whispering, and it's like,
Mhm, mhm.
what's happening? And then you find out, and especially if it's on some bullshit, it's like, wow, okay, so you're gonna put it all
Can you
out there
guys hear
like
me?
that without even,
You
yeah,
hear
we
me?
can hear you
Yeah, can you
without
hear us?
Can't hear
even,
you.
You can't
What the
hear?
hell is
yes.
happening here?
So
We can hear you.
that's how it is.
Yeah. Yeah, so you just have to be okay with not getting the closure that you need. Because, like, even with relationships, when people be in relationships with each other, like romantically, and the relationship ends, a lot of people don't get closure. And I be hearing people say, "Well, I didn't get the closure that I needed." Well, what are you gonna do with that at the
What
end
are
of
you
the
gonna
day?
with
What do you,
that unprocessed information? What can
right?
you do?
What can you do?
Um, at the end of the day, if you know that you've tried every avenue and it wasn't a as harsh, with this person in this relationship, putting smut in your name, it just was a disconnect. Y'all just stopped talking, you know.
Hmm.
Then if they don't want to communicate after that, then I would suggest just journaling about it, talking with a therapist or some type of mental health person to help you work through the fact that you can't get closure there. With people that you have to see on a daily or still have to communicate with in your life, and it's something that tightens your chest when you see them or hear their name, and you still can't wrap yourself around that has to be worked through somehow. That's the type of conversation or confrontation that is gonna have to happen, especially if we have to coexist. We
Hmm.
have to deal with each other, family functions or what have you, and you're still feeling some type of way. Sometimes you're going to come in on one severely and ready for all the smoke that could possibly be that day. Prayerfully we don't have to go there because we're older, but at the same token, it happens when families do meet up. I mean, I saw on YouTube where a father and son was just blasting at each other. That why did their situation get to that level where the father and the son whipped out strap on each other and pulled the trigger? So
That's just a lack of respect on both sides.
I mean, we don't, especially, and I hate to say it, but
yeah,
especially
but
black males,
clearly
we
it,
don't
it has been happening.
we
Mm-hmm.
don't know how to communicate without violence. So that's the way a lot of us, if you grow up in the neighborhood, you got an issue, there's usually talking and going in, and then people get disrespectful. And then men, they go, okay, women too, though. You start getting physical. Those are fisticuffs. And that's not a mature or healthy way to communicate all the time. Like people say, you got to use your words. I think a lot of times that we don't try to communicate with respect. I like, with one of the previous podcasts we got talking to Maria, Mia J. I like what she said, where we got to communicate with responsibility. So a lot of times in the heat of the battle, we'll say things that are hateful just to be hateful, and then some of the things that you say when you're being hateful, especially because you like with a family member or your intimate mate, you guys know personal things about it. So the stuff you say hurtful can be real hurtful. Some of that stuff you may not be able to recover from. So,
That's exactly what I'm talking about. That's exactly what I meant when
yeah.
it's somebody that close to you that you're gonna be, you have the same circle of everybody, pretty much everybody's interconnected. So the stuff, you wake up to it, you go to sleep to it, it's the same energy. How do you bring it to a head without it going so left to where now everybody's whipping out heat and or it's on site when I see you type crap? And I'm still very much an infant in this phase of it all.
Sometimes you just got to stay away from each other. I mean, I've had cousins where, shit, we didn't talk for like 10 years, and it was over something stupid. But it took 10 years, and we would be around each other. It wasn't no, we just didn't interact with each other. You know what I mean? So, and it just came to a point where we just had a conversation, and then it was, not that it was back to where it was, but it was cool, it was squashed, and there wasn't that tension in the air. But sometimes it just takes time.
You said it was cool and it was squashed, so you got to the bottom of it, or you just was over not talking to each other?
But there wasn't nothing to get the bottom of. It was just we came to a point where, okay, that was some bullshit. This is what happened. That is how I feel. That done, and then it's cool. You move on from there. You got to, forgive. Allow yourself to be forgiven, and allow yourself to forgive. So,
Well, if
I,
it
I
took
mean,
10 years to get to that point, to chop it up to not being nothing, I mean, clearly it was something.
It was something
no,
huge.
It was ginormous.
Yeah,
Because
10
no,
years.
not really. It's just stubborn, hard-headed ass people. So, fuck that nigga. I don't want to talk to him. But and it's just stubbornness, ego, and pride. You know, a lot of times the ego and pride, and just it happens. It's like, and it just happens that we have the same birthday, so we're the same. It's like hold a grudge. I know I can hold a grudge, and I know he can hold a grudge too. So we was around each other, so it wasn't like there was an issue or it was animosity. It's just when we was around each other, we didn't speak, and we was real close. If we just didn't speak, we interacted with the family and just until then it came around the line where we just talked about it and it's cool.
So
Well, I
that
think
didn't make it awkward for the rest of the family, just looking at this take place. And
no, because it was mostly a thing between me and him. It wasn't anybody else. That's what I've. Sometimes sometimes there's situations where it's bigger, where it's everybody, but then sometimes it's a lot of times it's the communication between the two people that it happened with or the people involved. Everybody else is just outliers. So it's like when you're in a relationship, your girlfriend or your girlfriends or my homies, if we allow them to come into our what we have going on and we're not listening and communicating with each other, then it can go haywire and get all kind of weird feelings. But if it's just a problem between or issue that me and you need to communicate, then we need to communicate to resolve it. So at least
Okay, so
that's how I see it.
this is
Communicate.
that Alicia
Yeah.
Miko and I had a long time ago. This was some years back, but there was a time where we were not communicating with each other, and it was, it was a conversation that could have been taken place, but we didn't. We waited a while before we had the conversation. The point is when me and Miko have our conversations, or we're having an issue, we always bring God back to the center of our communication. You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like if you love somebody and you believe in God, and I know that sometimes you have to just separate. Sometimes it can't be fixed, cannot be fixed. But I'm trying to tell you, when Miko and I were not speaking, I totally prayed about that situation because I didn't feel like that was a relationship that was very important to me, and there was no way I was going to go 10 years without talking to her. So I think for a lot of times people forget the source, or they don't go back to the source to say, even if the relationship doesn't come back together to be where it needs to be or where it was, at least you know that you prayed about it. That's the resolve for me now.
Mm-hmm.
So me not talking to my siblings, yes, it's hurtful, but at the end of the day, God's bigger than all of us. You know what I'm saying? So I'm
Amen. Amen.
sleep. I'm not gonna be bent up in a knot, and I don't have to go around town talking crazy about neither one of them. You know what I'm saying? Because
Absolutely.
it's God first with me at the end of the day, and I've already prayed on that situation. So the time that we're not talking is just the time that we ain't talking. If it come back together, then that's gonna be for the good of God, and that's what He wanted.
I totally love how you said that, because this is totally a full circle moment, because just yesterday at church, the topic is friendship.
Mm-hmm.
I did a group on friendship last week and at work, and now we're talking about it today. And then yesterday at church, it was friendship. But what I
Mm-hmm.
got from church is said, if you're believers, you already know that you have God as in the center.
Mm-hmm.
So he's already in the mix. It's when you have these non-like-minded individuals,
Mm-hmm.
and they're on some demon time with it.
I don't know
You know
what
what I'm saying?
the people is on. As far as I know, yeah, that could be atheist for all I know.
Absolutely, absolutely. So what the pastor was saying was, always lead with love, especially
Mm-hmm.
if the person you want in your life means something to you. It's definitely a conversation to be had. It definitely needs to be led with open arms, how Jesus said it, how he wanted it to be. He wants us to be in unity and community with one another,
Mm-hmm.
and get to the point where if you need a mediator, someone that is a believer as well, to come in and say, hey, you guys, let's pray about it first, then let's discuss it. That's
Right.
taking a whole lot of energy out of the situation, to where you can get to the part where Mr. Putney was saying, it's nothing now. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it'll be nothing after we've prayed, after we've talked, after we've mediated, after we've done all the work that needs to be done to show each other that, hey, our relationship is bigger than this. It's
Mm-hmm.
bigger than this tiff we had. And the devil lies in the offense. That's how he grows. As long
Mm-hmm.
as I can keep you upset with me and offended by whatever I've done, he wins. when we lay that down and put that to the side, and like you said, it's ego, it's power trip, it's you know, everybody can't be the bigger person. But if Char means that much to me, I can put that to the side and hear her out wholeheartedly with my whole heart. My heart can hear her heart, and we can just talk this thing out. We got to cry it out, cuss it out, whatever. Because it started out with text messages. I was like, well, bomb first. We was on some Tupac, sending subliminals for the longest before we got to the point where we could laugh about it, then come together and just hash it out to where it was very
That's the
minute, but
idea.
we were equally, you know, not ready to, you know, raise the white flag of surrender at the time.
Right.
And it took us to grow.
Yeah, so that's the
Yeah, you have to grow as a person, and you know, because like
right.
my siblings, they have done
Work.
no work, and they damn sure haven't reached out to me. You know what I'm saying? They created this narrative, but I absolutely refuse to be the bigger person or say, "Hey, let's talk this out." I will not do it. I will die with this same
You're just
attitude.
not ready yet. Yeah, I mean, that's the nuances. It's like, you know, when it added, it's like I was in Seattle and he was in Denver. So it wasn't like we were around each other, you know. It was every couple years I come back home. So it wasn't like necessarily we was around each other every day and it was like that. So, but it was kind of just how you were just saying. It was like one time I would reach out and he wasn't ready to talk, and then he'd reach out and I wasn't ready to talk. So it would just go back and forth. And it just got to a point where we just, hey man, you know, that was 10 years ago, da 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 da. And it was, you know, it was cool. I mean, so that's what I mean by cool. It was like
But did you actually talk
I got
about
somebody back in my life.
did you
Yeah,
talk
about
okay.
all that. Yeah. So it wasn't like we just dapped it up and it was cool. No, we had a long conversation, talk like men, had a man-to-man
Mhm.
Yeah,
conversation.
because
And it
Mhm.
was
that's
just
what I
able to
can't do.
settle it.
We
So that's what
cannot.
I mean.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. It's like, but it has to be when both people are ready. Because like you
Hmm.
were saying, you know, when there's a text, is nobody wants to wave the right white flag. That's kind of that was it, you know. So, but I think, you know, getting back to like what we're talking about the friendship and the betrayal, it's like I really like what he was saying at the end about you know, getting, you know, within your spirit and the Lord, you know, don't let them you still behave the way you normally behave. Don't let them get you out of your character or
Mhm.
the way you behave. Just don't give them access to that deep to your heart. And then that's kind of like, you know, like Charles said, you know, kind of keep them at arm's distance for right now. Could change later, maybe, maybe not. But you know, you got to protect your peace, I think. So you
Yeah.
know, I can't
Absolutely.
I
And
can't
it
walk
shows
around being
growth
mad
when
at
you can set
somebody.
healthy boundaries.
Mhm.
And going forth,
Yeah,
what life has taught me is that you show people how to treat you. If you let a lot of shit slide in the
yes,
beginning, or you know what I'm saying, without addressing it right away, I have to get to the bottom of it, you know, right away. The most is 72 hours before, you know. Other than that, it's just turning into a grudge. It's turning into animosity. It builds. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
Mhm.
So with the sibling thing, it's unfortunate, but again, you know, you're dealing with folks that don't have the capacity to, you know, make amends. Again, put God in it, and you know, wholeheartedly say, you know, I was wrong. That takes such
Never
a
done.
huge person to say I was wrong.
Mhm. And
And
it'll
when
never
we don't have that, we don't have closure. We don't, that's the closure I'm talking about. Just the accountability of it all to say, or,
yeah,
you know, we was both tripping and we could laugh about it that way. Cause you and I know in this relationship that we're both, we butt heads, but at the end of the day, we've been around each other for so long that I'm gonna give you a minute. I'm gonna give you a minute. I'm gonna let you laugh in my face. You know it's gonna piss me off. I'm gonna poke you and antagonize you till we get to. That's what I'm saying. You know I don't like you laughing in my face.
Well, hey, touche.
Touche. So and that's what I'm. That's the whole basis of it. You have to cherish that relationship enough to want to make amends, and when it doesn't happen, it is one of those things where you just have to charge it to the game. But as far as putting smut on someone's name, I'm on my YouTube streets that I cruise. That's 99% of what's going viral is he said, ain't no she's in it. These are the messiest dudes I've ever seen. It's the pettiest stuff, but they're offended on some levels. I'm not going to take away that they don't have a story or a narrative, but at the same time, we're taking all of our dirt to the internet and we're making it bigger and we're making everybody get in it now and everybody got an opinion. I think you should pull up and then you need the stick and the blicky and the whoop-de whoop. Come on, bruh.
I'm not going into
and right now we're considered the elders. So if we see the youngsters going through things, it's our duty to bring God in it and let them know how we could resolve things in a manner to where, we could do better. We could absolutely do better.
It'd be our generation to be the messiest. So sometimes, you get it because you get the OGs that'll keep telling the youngsters some bullshit, and then they go up with that bullshit. It's like I think a lot of times it seems like, and I don't know where it happened, but it's like the OGs were what we considered OGs, or what I consider OGs when I was growing up. They would do that, but they would always be trying to give you knowledge or telling you, my uncles and the older, people at the church, they trying to, they'll get on you, but they'll try to lead you in a right way. It's like if you was cutting up, it's like, having friends where, the involved in the gangs and stuff, and they like, man, this ain't you, Negro. If you don't take your butt home, I'm gonna beat you up. Because they knew that wasn't what I was on, but I was around it, and they're like, "Nah, man." So it's like I don't think. Sometimes it seems like the OGs are not. They're not telling the younger generation what's right and wrong. So the OGs
They're
are
not.
acting like
they totally dropped the ball. And even how we grew up with watching our parents as siblings fall out weekly over things and go years, months without resolving, and all you'd hear both parties saying is, well, she know what she did, or she know what she said, or it was never no resolve, and they'll just start back talking. I'm like, I can't live in that realm. I gotta know what the issue was, and so we won't do it again. We don't need to keep doing this merry-go-round. We need to know, okay, this is what was said, this is how I felt. You said this, I said that, hurt your feelings, tit for tat, and we come together and mend the brokenness, not just act like it didn't happen.
From any of, I don't think there's been an apology for any of our aunts and uncles.
Nope.
Like any of them, like whatever they have been irritated about or each other about, I don't think they have ever said, like you just said, let's have this conversation.
Nope.
You know what? I apologize.
Nope.
I've never in my life, in the 50 years I've been on this planet,
absolutely,
heard them apologize to each other.
And that's why this conversation was so important, because again, I felt like they dropped the ball as far as showing us, because that was always the old saying, do as I do, or do as I say, not as I do. But you said some things and you did some things that was very hypocritical to, you could have been mended this. All of you could have sat down and said, okay, we don't have our parents anymore. This is how we should go moving forward, and have a wholehearted apology. Those meetups we were having, and everything was always ending with the toxicity of the past. Like, damn.
Every time.
every time. Like, can we not get through this without the past being brought up? It
And it's
seemed to go smooth for 30, 40 minutes. And then here we go, bam, Satan shows up with that old ass offense. And now the children are involved. Now the children are adults. We are those children that is like, come on, bruh, for real. You're gonna upset my mama, I'm gonna upset your mama, and now
yeah,
they want the kids to have beef. So
it's craziness.
it's crazy. It is
It's
it's
beyond
absolutely
crazy. It's
crazy.
crazy.
It is absolutely crazy. But we're leading by example now. Now we are the elders, and we could set better examples for them to see that, hey, a meeting of the minds is always gonna work. Because first we have God, we are believers. I think that's the sets the precedent. They could say they believe, but your actions show something different. Because show picking up the
Or we
phone,
talk
or just saying let's meet up, okay, at Sunday dinner, we'll discuss this, we'll get the kids to pray, we'll all sit down and really show how we love each other. We
Yeah,
did that. We've always had our kids together and Sunday dinners and stuff like that. But I don't know, it's just, and then with the outsiders, it's it's even crazier, because I done had a lot of mental funerals on people that I held very close to me, that I didn't see the energy being put by it. They were okay with our friendship dissolving, and I had to be okay with that as well. So, bye. Bye.
take
Take the
care.
memories. Yeah, I got the t-shirts, I got the pictures, I have all the memories, and I'm wishing you well from 2,700 miles away. So
Yeah,
God
you're
be with you in your endeavors.
I really do wish you the best.
Honestly, I have no animosity, no hate or whatever. So like you said, like you'll go to your deathbed without having that conversation. And I'm gonna just co-sign with that, because I don't see the maturity level of who you're dealing with to be able to help you heal and help themselves heal. And if it's an offense with a sibling, God forbid it be a stranger, who knows how they get it, you know what I'm saying? And you just keep bleeding on people that didn't cut you, because you're unhealed. You're an unhealed individual. So this Jonathan Miller pastor, I really like that we got a chance to dive into what he was saying, and how he said it. And that topic really was eye-opening for me, just to get some things out and clear. Hopefully, a better understanding of how we all would process things when it comes to betrayal, or thinking that you mean more to someone than they mean to you. That's where
That's
yeah,
what it is.
that's what it
I
is.
think about it how people will show you how they feel about you by how they treat you. So it's like
And then
if
going around
somebody's just yeah, if they're just talking about you, but they are still cool with you in your face, then that's something that you need to address. But if they're talking bad about you and then treating you like an outsider or stranger, then there's a bigger issue that that is like, okay, not only are you talking bad about me, but you're showing me that you don't give a f about me too. So then it's like, then you know what Maya Angelou say, if somebody shows you who they are, believe them.
Yeah, what you're not
That's
gonna do is
scary.
get a chance to play in my face. You know what I'm saying? If
Uh,
we're not gonna resolve the issue, I can respectfully disagree and bow out of the conversation. Hopefully, it's met with a model tone like I have right now, and I don't have to escalate it to some other level
respond
of
responsibly.
bestiality that doesn't need to be there, because now we got blood pressure issues and cholesterol and then migraines and stuff we
Messed
dealing
up my
with. So
cholesterol today.
just I don't have the energy to
Hit
just
it on the head,
be
'cause
that
I think
confrontational.
that's where
What was
the
that?
violence comes from when people was playing with the people's face.
That part. What
Yeah,
we
but
saying,
the
Media
violence
dude?
The violence comes when people start playing in you, like you said, people start playing in your face. That's where the violence, I think, comes from, because people like we they just gonna play in my face like that, especially in front of a lot of other people. They put you on
Yeah.
Front Street.
As I always say, are you not entertained? People come for the entertainment. They will follow you around town and keep the narrative popping. And I just saw her whoop whoop. She saw her. She didn't say nothing, or he saw her, and
Mhm.
they was arguing at the gas station. All that extra drama, just the buildup, is so toxic. It's so
Mhm.
toxic. But we came up in that. So to break away from it and be bigger now and give it to God is the best thing we could do to save another generation of having to go through
That's
this.
the only thing I could do,
That's
because I
it. Me
not
too.
absolutely do not have the capacity to go back and forth with you about
No,
something silly that could have been a simple conversation. Not doing it.
absolutely.
You can call me
Absolutely.
mean, call me the Grinch, say I don't like Christmas and all this stuff. I'm not doing it. She
But
don't even wrap Christmas presents. Okay.
whoa,
I
send you
don't have the
straight to
patience.
hell, you non-gift wrapping ass. So you
I don't have the patience for all that back and forth stuff. I've always been impatient. I really don't. It's like, when you were younger, it's like, one of those things. It's like, I'm not gonna argue with you. I might just fire on you, which I found out as I got older. That is a very, very bad attitude to have. But it's like, I get too worked up when we arguing back and forth. I don't, if it's like a sports thing and playful, okay, we do it all day long. But when it's like real situations, I mean, we can't just argue back and forth. I don't. We should be able to communicate, and if we can't, then I'd rather just step away for a minute.
and that's what it said Sunday when we were talking about it. It was actually in either First Peter or Matthew. It says if you can't come together with that person one on one, bring another like-minded believer that can mediate it and have you come together to where it's not escalating and stuff like that. And that believer is praying for the situation and seeing both sides and letting you both be accountable for the understanding and the misunderstanding of what happened. And if those people aren't able to come together and make amends, then we could really just sever it and say, this is it. We really tried, and I wish you well. I don't need to further insert myself into your life. I'm not wanted there. We don't see eye to eye. And what is the point of us continuing any type of interaction?
Thank you for listening to Soulful Conversation. We hope you enjoyed tonight's Soulful Conversation. Be sure to stay connected with us during the week through our weekly podcasts on Spotify, our YouTube channel, Patreon, and social media.